We've been here for 2 days now. We got here the morning after the storm and started conducting rescues. Most of them have told us that they weren't expecting it to hit here. The meteorologist said that it was going to hit Tampa, you know.
I think Hurricane Ian paralleled with the bombings in Ukraine, I think is a really appropriate parallel. That's what it looks like. There's, Dynamo has rescued Americans from Afghanistan and refugees from Afghanistan. We rescued refugees and Americans from Ukraine. Now we're rescuing Americans who are now refugees in Florida.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah.
7 years. 7 years.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Buccaneers pregame show, Sports Talk Florida, and Bucs Report. I'm Jim Williams, sports director here with Sports Talk Florida. Normally we would have had our exciting and fun open, but it's not been a fun and exciting week here in the state of Florida. It's been a very difficult one in which tens of thousands of people have been displaced. Hundreds of thousands of people have had property destroyed, and there's billions of dollars worth of damage that has been done that needs to be fixed. So one of the things that sports does do is it does everyone in so much as we have communities. The Buccaneers community and the NFL community is working hard to make sure that people are taken care of. And doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter if you're from the Tampa Bay area, doesn't matter if you're from Fort Myers or wherever. And, the key is that we all are part of this. And for the next hour, our goal, and many of you have told me that things are going that you're going to either listen to us on your phone or watch us on your phone, and we appreciate that. It's a very, very difficult time, and we just want you to know that we at Sports Talk Florida and the Bucs Report are just, understand that we know that you are suffering, and some of you are out there suffering more. We have a couple of places where we want you to look into. Red Cross, Hurricane Ian, all the information on that's in the show box below. There's also some things that we're going to be running in a crawl in just a minute. So by all means, hang with us and stay with us for the next hour. We're going to do one other thing which sports is able to do, and that's give you a diversion. It's fun to get away from everyday life and some of the things that are tough, and we're going to be able to come out here and try to do that for you. So with that said, and as I said before, you're going to have an opportunity. We were going to put the crawl in so you can be able to see that you'll be able to go ahead and throughout the night, we're going to put that up there so it doesn't have a problem, so people know where to go. And we shall, talk about the Buccaneers and the Chiefs as best we can. And knowing all along that you guys are out there, many of you listening to us on a cell phone and watching with us, and it's just a sense of community. So we're reaching out to you. We're going to be here to entertain you and to try to help you through it as the best way we can, and that's to be a diversion for at least an hour, and then of course the game. So without any further ado, let me bring into the show my co-host, one of my co-hosts, buddy Chris King, Christopher, whose Buffalo Bills gave him probably some indigestion this afternoon as they played a Ravens team that they tried desperately to give it away, Chris, but they were unable to do so.
Well, it was a miserable first half. The weather was not conducive to much of anything. I mean, granted, it was nothing like what happened down there in Florida and then going up through the coast of South Carolina, but and they rallied in the second half. I still don't understand John Harbaugh's decision to throw for it on 4th and goal at the 2 with 4 minutes to go when all you need is a field goal to take the lead. But, we're grateful for stupidity like that because, it gave Buffalo a chance to drive down and kick a field goal with no time left to win. One thing I do want to ask you, Jim, and it has nothing to do with the games today. It has to do with what we saw Thursday night with Tua Tagovailoa suffering basically his second concussion in 5 days. Whether we want to hear that it's a concussion or not, we found that the independent neurotrauma doctor was fired. What's next?
I think that they're going to have to sit down and work with the folks from the Players Association and the league, and they're going to have to come up with a what we might call basically who makes the call? Is it the doctor's call? Is it the team doctor's call? Who makes the call? And we got James Canada's who's joining us, and James, we'll get him involved in this. James, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. How you guys doing?
Fine. We just wanted to let everybody know who many of them, James, are watching us on their cell phones or listening to us on their cell phones because, as you know, it's been a terrible week in the state of Florida, and millions of people have been affected by it. Some are still without power, many of whom are having all kinds of issues with flooding. And we are, as I said before, James, a diversion. We are here to basically entertain you, get you away from the problems you have for the next hour, and lead you into the upcoming Buccaneers game. So that's where we are at this point. There has to be a better concussion protocol. Okay. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV, and I'm not going to play one here. But that being said, I think that to protect the players and to protect the integrity of the game, we need to have a better setup in the concussion situation. James, your thought as a former player?
First and foremost, my thoughts and prayers will go out to Tua because it was just a bad situation to see him like that on the ground. You think the NFL coming in, bringing in independent doctors makes it a better situation, but it just goes to show that it wasn't. I've seen a lot of guys with a lot of different injuries over my years playing. And when he fell down in that Bills game and they later came back and said that was a back injury, I called BS as soon as I saw it. There was no back injury about that at all. And to be cleared and put back in the game, and a lot of times you have to save a player from themselves. You grew up with a Warriors mentality playing the game of football, like, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, I'll be okay. Yeah, no, just put me back in. And it has long-term effects. I'm not, Junior Seau was a guy like that. He knew how to manipulate exams on the sideline, and, look what it caused him later on in life. And so when it comes down to it, players have to be saved from themselves sometimes, and the NFL is going to, and the union's really going to have to look long and hard to do something to make it right for everybody.
Well, the other thing too, James, and again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and that is there has to be an adult in the room. Somebody has to say, I don't care if you feel like you're ready to go back in a game. No, you can't. And I remember what happened to Robert Griffin III, which was not a concussion thing, but he was injured in a game against Baltimore. And Kirk Cousins came in, won the final 3 games, got them into the playoffs. Robert, had done his best to get back to play. James Andrews, who was the guy who performed the surgery on the minor surgery at the time on his leg to get him to the point where he could actually practice, started the game. James Andrews was literally on the sidelines with the team doctor, and when Robert first slipped and it looked like he buckled his knee, he came off the field. He hobbled off the field. He jumped up on the table. Andrews and the team doctor took a look at him. The Redskins got an interception, got the ball back, and all of a sudden he was off the table on the field. And Mike Shanahan turns. I remember seeing this. Shanahan turns, looking at both the doctors, with like one of his hands up, like, okay, is he okay? And they're like, he was gone. So basically, you brought it up early. You cannot protect a player from himself if he is hell bent on getting back in the game. Short of tackling him, maybe in those little tents they should have zippers so you can't get out of the tent. I don't know, but I don't make light of this because you brought about the junior Seau thing. How many of your players who are friends are suffering, concussions that they had during their playing days? That how many of these former players are dying in their 50s and 60s, or having Parkinson's disease or other issues that are brought on by getting hit in the head too many times?
It's numbers, but and I think the bigger problem, not just like you made a good point when you said Robert Griffin III's injury. The biggest problem is, and you see it to where, let's take the big name guys out of it. You have guys that that are fighting for roster spots, or they make the team and barely make the team.
Right.
Yet now these are the guys that are scared to get injured, because if they have you on film performing, whether you're hurt or not, they have cause to release you.
Sure.
Right. So now you get guys that'll try to play through being hurt. They don't want to sit out. They don't want to miss games. Now, Tua can afford to sit out. I don't think Tua's going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
But the entire mentality of I have to be tough and I have to play and I can't miss, it starts from the culture, and the culture of the NFL is, well, next man up. And if that means I cut you to bring in somebody else off the street, I'll do it. So now you have guys risking their health and their well-being because they can only see the right now. They can only see the moments on the field.
Right.
And they don't look past that. I've seen guys where it's like, hey, well, everything's going to be okay. I think you can practice today. Guy, he gets convinced. He goes out, he practices. Something still hurt. They got the practice film, and then this next thing you know, that guy's gone the next day. He's cut and gone. So it's just like, it's a dirty business.
Or they get that, they get a cortisone shot or something like that where they don't feel it and it gets worse.
Right.
Now, my question is, how is this going to be resolved? Are we going to see Miami get fined? I mean, because at some point, the team doctors had to be involved in this too. You can't just say it was this independent guy that cleared him magically on his own.
Right.
Where does Mike McDaniel factor into this and everything else? Because let's face it, like James said, if that was a back injury, I'm sure Mike Spinks had a back injury when Mike Tyson knocked him out in 1988.
Well, I mean, look, it can't be on the player, coach. It's got to be on the front office to make a protocol that sits down and says, if the doctor says you're not playing, whether you're Tua or the 53rd guy on the team, you're not playing. It's got to be that way. I mean, it can't be anything other than that. And, that's just the way it is. And I'm not saying that the coach in this particular case, the Dolphins coach, turned and said, okay, fine, you're playing. I'm not sure what happened in that whole situation. I know that, he got bonged in the situation with against Buffalo, and he was cleared to play. And so I guess the coach is saying, okay, fine, if he's cleared to play, then I'll play him. And then we saw what happened against the Bengals. So at that point in time, it is what it is, right? I mean, he put him in because he was told he could. Again, there's got to be an adult in the room, and that adult has got to be somebody in upper management. It can't be the coach. You can't leave it to the coach. It is not fair to leave it to the coach. That's just not right. You got to put it in a position of, if the general manager is the overall boss of the roster, then he's got to tell the player, the deal has to be done, that the adult in the room has to be a management person. You can't put that on the coach because that's not fair.
Well, I was going to say, got to be smart. I'm sorry, Chris. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, James. Go ahead.
I was like, the coach has still got to be smart enough. You can hide behind not being a doctor and not knowing, but when you see your quarterback do the drunken monkey walk like a kung fu movie, like he just got hit, you have got to go, hey,
No,
It's not worth it. Let me go Bridgewater for the
no,
rest of this game.
right. I'm not. Look, I'm not. I'm not absolving the coach. And the drunk human. That's funny. I apologize. I'm not trying to give the coach an out. What I'm trying to say is you literally are putting a judgment on a coach,
That's true.
which is not fair. Because if he says no and he puts Bridgewater in the game, then the world, everybody on the planet says, "What do well, Tua didn't look that bad," So there's that, and so you put the coach in a very awkward position. All I'm saying is the guy who gets, the guy who's the general manager, who is in charge of the roster, and who, by the way, will cut the guy if he's the 52nd or 53rd guy on the team.
Right.
Should be the guy making that decision. And at this point in time, we're going to find out how that plays out. But
Well, the last thing I was going to say about it, and I was going to ask both of you, is we saw a lot of guys magically get ruled out with concussions today. Is this closing the barn door after the cows already got out?
Yeah, I think that, someone's trying to save their buttocks somewhere,
right?
And in a better term for it, there's a lot of people that aren't going to run the risk now because the spotlight is on, which it never should go anywhere. I think people ask me how many times, like, James, how many concussions did you have? I don't know. They tell me back in the day I just rung my bell and shake it off and I should be okay. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and was it to the point where I lost, I fell down, lost my balance, lost sight? No, but I've had moments where it's like you got to whip out a smelling salt to try to shake it back in and get back ready again. And also, like, what happened? Like, I don't know, I'm good. So it's just, those are the scary parts and times that, you deal with as a player because during the moment you're not thinking about it.
I think it had to do with a lot of legal departments in the teams throughout the league. Is like, do we want to get a suit? I don't think so. So I think maybe that's how we got so many people benched this week. We've got a game tonight, and it was a game that we didn't know where it was going to be played early in the week. It's going to be played obviously tonight at the stadium at Raymond James, and this is not really a Brady Mahomes kind of game. This is kind of like the Buccaneers defense has played incredibly well enough where they could be 3-0 at this point. I mean, if you look at how they've held their opponents down, you certainly can't fault them for what's going on. And Kansas City, and we're going to have Scott Steen on in a little while to talk about the Chiefs. But the Chiefs have played well, but they haven't been, running up the score on anybody either. So, James, was there a guy when you played who was Mahomes-esque in the way that they played?
I don't think I can just say a straight Mahomes. It's like he's a hybrid type quarterback.
Right,
he changed the game.
Right.
If I had to relate, I think back to those days of guys seeing like Randall Cunningham. But he's a little bit more leg than Mahomes. Mahomes used just enough to escape, but still really wants to throw the ball. Right. He has that weird sidearm release, a true gunslinger coming out of Texas Tech. So there's nobody I can really pinpoint. Remember, that's that's dead on because he's changed the way the game has been played a little bit. But at the same time, he's still vulnerable to make mistakes, and I think that our defense can capitalize on that.
Right. One of the things that we saw today, because we saw in the game that Chris and I were talking about, the Buffalo-Baltimore game, you had two quarterbacks who played that same style, and both of them made mistakes today. They were prone to do it, and it's let me ask you a question. We were talking about the they can throw sidearm, right? One of the things, if you are a baseball fan, the best baseball pitchers, the DeGroms, the Scherzers, the guys like that, they throw every pitch they throw. They may throw 3 or 4 different style pitches. They all throw from the same arm angle. And the reason they do that is so you don't know what it's coming up. But when you see Mahomes drop down sidearm, you know where that ball, it's going to go around me, because he's going to throw it that way. how important are the linebackers and the defensive line in contain on Mahomes in a case like this?
I mean, they're very important. I mean, the way the front's been playing, we got pressure last week. The pressure is going to be there. This is probably the most he might be the most mobile out of everyone we play, but he's still not a straight sprinter takeoff guy like
Lamar Jackson.
Like Lamar Jackson. Yeah, I'm sorry. You said the Buffalo game, and my brain went because it just blew my mind how they didn't kick a field goal, so it messed me up for a second.
It's okay. John Harbaugh had the same problem.
Right, but it's very important to contain him because he will slide up in the pocket to escape. He does it very well, and but one thing I don't worry about our pass rush. I don't know if I should. But it seemed to be getting better every week. You know what I'm saying? As the season's going on, that seemed to be getting a little bit better every week. And the secondary is playing well also. And, this is another team that has kind of got wide receiver by committee. Juju and Valdez, Scantling. And, I think – and Kelsey's their number one target. So I think, with Devin White and Levante David, we can actually cover Kelsey with those. Those two linebackers can cover.
Right.
And then if not, our safeties can do it as well. So I think we're going to be okay.
So wait, just to clarify, James, with your coaching hat on, you wouldn't have gone for it on 4th and 2 in a driving rainstorm in a tie game with 4 minutes to go.
I am from the Coach Dungy School of Football. You take the points when you have the chance to take the points. So I'm kicking that field goal. And I'm gonna give my defense a chance to get me the ball, to stop him and give me the ball back.
Now, what do you make of Harbaugh's rationale that if you kick a field goal, now it's not a 3-down game anymore, it's a 4-down game? If Buffalo gets stopped there and they have the ball at the 2 and it's 4th down and 6, they're not going to be going for it on 4th down at inside their own 10. Right. So I don't understand what Harbaugh is talking about.
I think someone said this on TV earlier when I was watching another game. This is when analytics comes back to bite you in the butt. So throw those things out the window, man. This new school, listening to the computer and analytics and the numbers, it costs you a ball game, in my opinion.
You also have the best kicker in football, in Justin Tucker. The chances of him missing a field goal, even in a driving rainstorm, and I can tell you it was a driving rainstorm because it was right outside my window. So I know it was driving, and I'm only 10 minutes from the ballpark. So, it was raining, but Justin Tucker can kick. I would have kicked it, and I mean that's basically you're disrespecting the defense. You're saying, you know what? I don't think you can stop Buffalo.
In a nutshell, that's the same way I feel. I was like, Jim, our defense can do this, and then but you don't trust them enough to kick the field goal to keep Buffalo from scoring.
Right, and you're playing on a slip and slide.
And I mean, how demoralizing is that for you as a defensive player, James, when your team goes down the field and chews up, 9.5 minutes and goes 90-some yards and gets no points?
It's very demoralizing. It hurts because the work that you put in. You think, cool, we got them in a situation to take the lead or whatever else. Then they come away with nothing. Then other team goes down, drives, and wins. It's just like it's one of those things where it seems small, but sometimes moments like this can have a bad effect for the rest of the season. Or it can have an after effect for the very next game sometimes, at least. And that makes it real tough.
A hangover.
Yeah. And one of those fun stats for you, Jim, the Ravens now blowing 2 17-point second half leads in the first 4 weeks of the season. Last team to do that, the Minnesota Vikings 8 years ago.
Well, there's also the fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that 17 points was the most that Buffalo had to come back on since the new regime has been there.
Yep, that's their biggest comeback since last time they came back from 17 down was, ironically enough, against Tom Brady in New England in 2011. They came back and beat New England 38-35 in a similar situation where they kicked a field goal as time expired. That game came at Ralph Wilson Stadium. in week 3.
Earlier this week, Tom Brady sat down. I'm sorry, Patrick Mahomes sat down to talk about Tom Brady, and he was talking. This was a interview that was done for Football Night in America, which is on right now. Anyway, and they asked him about his relationship with Tom, and he goes, "You want not to like Tom, but he's just the best guy. It's hard not to like him. But when you're able to play golf in a tournament with him, and he gives you advice on anything and everything you want, he goes, he's the GOAT. There's no question about it. You learn from him. He stands there and talks to you about some things that, that you can do better and helps you through them. He's like a coach standing there, and you're sitting there going, okay, I'm supposed to hate this guy? It's impossible." So, and he talks about what he learned from Brady. He goes, he learned more about how to manage his life and how to understand that even if you lose, there's always going to be next week. And even if you lose next week, you've got, and this is the part I think that's the most important thing. You're playing a game that kids play on a field every day, and you're getting paid a ridiculous amount of money for it. That's not a bad thing to learn.
Not at all.
So there's that. Anyway, the situation, guys, tonight, do you see this as one where Evans will be back? We will get reports on. Do we have we don't have an update yet on the. Something
just popped up saying, I don't know if it's official, saying that Julio Jones and Gage are playing also.
Okay. Yeah, and Godwin. The inactives for Tampa Bay are Perryman, who you knew probably wasn't going to play anyway.
Right.
Scotty Miller is inactive. So is Kyle Rudolph, Zion McCollum, Kyle Trask, and, of course, Lakeem Hicks, who's dealing with that foot injury.
Right.
Kansas City doesn't have Mike Dana on the defensive end side with a calf injury. Darian Kennard, Harrison Butker will not be kicking again. And Ronald Jones is not active, so he won't get to play against his former teammates.
So Brady will have some weapons to throw to tonight.
That's what it says. Sounds like it.
Yeah. Well,
if they can stay on the field,
it's got to be what happened last time against Green Bay when you got 3 guys named Mo playing on the wide receivers. I mean, they were wearing tags when they came into the huddle and said, "Hello, my name is," just so Tom knew who they were.
That's what happens when you have 3 Mo's. They should have had a Shemp.
Yeah, amazing. But tonight is going to be a test. You don't want to go down, to 2-2, and you're playing another, in a long line of the best teams in the league. You go from Green Bay to Kansas City. That's not a bad. It's not a bad group of people to be playing against.
No, but this starting to scare. This offense is starting to scare me. It's making me think a lot of 1998 or 1997. I mean 1999, like where it's like we praying that the offense can just go score 10. If we get 17 points, we feel like we can win as a defense. That's what it's looked like over these first 3 weeks. And I know we know about the offensive line injuries, but we knew Godwin was going to be out beforehand. There's still a miss somewhere in free agency on what we should have aimed towards to have a weapon. And a lot of people on social media are like, "Oh, we missed Gronk." And I don't necessarily think that Gronk is the answer that we necessarily needed with all the other receiving mysteries. But, it's like, is Tom looking old, or is it just, rush from not playing in the preseason? And I think tonight answers a lot of those questions for me, at least, once I see how this game plays out.
Well, we're about to enter, bringing in our guest, Scott Steen. Scott from Kansas City and also from Winners and Winers. He's a fun guy, somebody who we all enjoy, and he can tell us everything we want to know about the Kansas City Chiefs. Scotty, welcome to the show.
They suck. They've been a disappointment so far this year. Back to you, Jim.
I think you know the guy above you, Chris King.
What's up, Chris?
Good to see you, Scott.
James, I'd like to introduce you to Scott Steen. Scott's a fantastic writer. He's also talk a moment about your show, Scotty, because it's a lot of fun.
Well, first of all, James, very nice to meet you. A pleasure
Nice to meet you as well.
Pleasure to do the show with you. Yeah, we put together a little NFL show that's about 3/4 straight handicapping and about 25% sketch show, kind of a scaled down version of Saturday Night Live, if you will. So it's been a lot of fun so far. We've had good reviews. So check it out on the Winners and Winers YouTube channel. It is Once Upon a Time in Las Vegas, the rise of the greatest sports betting show in the world. So a little understated title there. So I know you guys were talking about the inactives. You do get Godwin back, and of course you got Evans and Julio Jones. I guess that was the big one. Perriman, everybody knew. Scotty Miller, good guy to have if they don't have anybody else, but they've got others. So, the one I'm worried about the most as a Chiefs fan is Willie Gay. That is a brutal loss and a bad stretch of the schedule for the Chiefs to lose Gay. And I have to tell you that Darius Harris played the position last week, and he looked lost. I watched the All-22 earlier this week, and there was a huge amount of plays that he was absolutely clueless about where he should be. So I worry about the mid-range stuff, and I worry about runs to the outside that he's not going to be able to get to.
Well, that's what you get for beating up a vacuum cleaner.
That's brutal. I guess it was because it's during the season. You can't appeal it. It's the mandatory 4 games. You can't knock it down to 2. And of course, James, you could probably speak to this better than me, of course, but it seems like the NFL may be a little inconsistent with their punishments for domestic violence and things like that.
It's so. I've done several shorts on my channel about the inconsistency of punishment, and the punishment doesn't always fit the crime when it comes to when these things are passed out. And I want to know who's in charge of it, because they really got to get on the same page when it comes down to, handing out suspensions.
Yep. I completely agree. It must have been a really, really nice vacuum cleaner that he beat.
It's probably a Dyson.
It's probably Dyson, one of those. He's a young man in the prime of his career making some money. So yeah, you got the Dyson. You're springing for the good one,
right?
Well, it's a shame, but we were talking about Mahomes and his weapons this year. Scotty, what's your thoughts about who he has to throw to this time around? Other than Travis Kelce, who is all world, what's the receiver situation look like?
I think the talent is there. I just don't think they're in sync yet. They brought over Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They brought over Juju. And those guys have made some plays at times, but there's been some other times when I think that they're not on the same page as far as where they should end up on their route. And it looks like there's been some miscommunication there. What I'm surprised about is they haven't been able to get Hardman more involved.
Okay.
I really thought this was going to be the season for Hardman to step up. And, nobody can assume the Hill role, but he does have elite speed as far as a wide receiver goes. And I thought they'd be able to plug him in more. But, so far he's just had 7 catches over 3 games and just been targeted 11 times. So I think for the Chiefs to be more successful, they have to figure out a way to get him involved and then kind of fold those other guys in as needed.
Okay, let's go to the stadium and Carter Brantley. Carter, joining us from the stadium. Carter, what's going on at Raymond James Stadium? Good to have you back, buddy. What's going on over there? He was there a second ago. Carter, can you hear me?
Carter, can you hear me?
Carter Brantley. I didn't. Your mic's on. Carter, I'll tell you what. Why don't you come out and come back? And for some reason, we can't hear you, buddy. Okay. So Carter's at the stadium. He will be back.
Well, real quick, then, let me ask Scott a question about the Chiefs. You talk about all these receivers. What about the run game? Because Ronald Jones isn't playing. You've seen Pacheco. You've seen Edwards-Helaire. Could this be a big game for Jerick McKinnon?
It is possible. They run a lot of unique packages for him where they try to get him out in space. I think that's certainly possible. You've got 3 running backs Well, you don't really know what you have in Pachenko yet, being a rookie, but you've got two other running backs that are about a 6, and I don't think either one of them are elite. I don't think either one of them are ever going to be elite, but they certainly could be good enough to do what's needed in that Chiefs offense. And of course, Chris, you and I have talked many times. To be a running back in the NFL these days, and especially for an offense like the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to be able to block. So if you can't block for Andy Reid, you're not playing. I don't care how good of a runner you are, because you cannot put the franchise in danger by not being able to pick up that linebacker coming through the A gap there at the last minute on a twist. So that's first and foremost. That's what Andy Reid looks for in the running back. So you may not always have the most talented guys back there, but you do have guys that are able to do what he asks them to do. So
here comes Carter back. Let's see how we're doing. Carter, you there, buddy?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulties.
It's okay.
Yeah,
So,
I'm actually.
So
sorry,
what's
go ahead.
going on at Raymond James Stadium, my friend?
So I'm actually unfortunately not at the stadium. I had some family obligations pop up.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm definitely still excited to be part of the show. I've heard
no problem.
I've heard it's popping though. They said that they were having a really full press box. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see how this game turns out.
Okay. We've been talking about the game. What are some of the keys you're looking at?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to, two legendary quarterbacks matching up. The Bucs are getting, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin, and Donovan Smith back. So hopefully they'll be a little more dynamic offensively, but definitely looking for them to get back in rhythm. And I was listening to y'all talking about the Chiefs. It was really great. Y'all are having some great conversations, and they're definitely a really interesting team. Like he mentioned earlier, Juju Smith-Schuster and Valdez-Scantling, a USF grad, by the way. Go Bulls!
Mm-hmm.
Some local flavor. Yeah, he's used to playing at Raymond James Stadium, but yeah, they've been a little bit of a letdown. I have Travis Kelce on both of my fantasy teams, so I've been able to see how Travis Kelce does his thing. So yeah, I'm really excited. Definitely looking to see how the Bucs can get back into the groove of things offensively with most of their playmakers back. But yeah, those are kind of my keys.
James, you had mentioned a point about 1990. Was it 98 you were talking about?
I said 98, 99. Yeah.
99, right.
Mm-hmm.
There are times, and this is it, where you go to the offense and say, if you can't help me, for God's sake, don't hurt me. And I think at this point in time, as crazy as it sounds, you have an offense that has been, because whether it's they didn't play enough times together in camp or preseason, you've got an offense that just is timing is everything, as the old saying goes, but specifically timing is everything in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't had that time, so yeah, there's going to be a plethora of new and world-class receivers out there, but again, it all comes down to timing. And we have to make certain that is this a game that you expect that Byron Leftwich is going to put together more of a vanilla kind of offense and say, look, let's work our way into this? Or is he going to take the playbook out and say anything in the playbook is on?
I'll say let's get back to basics. If I see one more double pass pitch reverse back out to Scotty Miller, that it's like, Lord, dude, please just. I say let's go back to ground and pound. Get Leonard Fournette to get you some things going. Maybe some a little bit of play action pass from Brady, and open it up a little bit more that way. We know that the Chiefs can apply a little bit of pressure. They're not bad in the middle of that defense with Chris Jones, and he's a monster, right? But at the same time, we also have to take care of the ball. We have what, 6 turnovers total this season so far coming into it, and it's execution and it's ball security, and those are the two things that we've been lacking. And a team like Green Bay was able to expose us last week from those things. I don't think anything special was done because the defense figured it out after the 2 quick touchdowns.
Right.
But at the same time, Byron Leftwich, let's get back to basics. Let's feed the running back, play action pass, or just drop back after they got to put a little bit more in the box from Fournette running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But some of this play calling, I mean, I pull my hair out and you see I don't have a whole lot of that to do.
So basically, you're not of the Bobby Bowden trickeration school, and at least they didn't play the fumble rooski on them. That one. Maybe they're saving that for tonight.
It may have been coming next. I think they had it. I think they were down in the dirt drawing it on the sideline. I think.
Right. So come on, let's do this.
Well, the funny thing is, James was talking about scoring 17 points and being happy with it. You know who would like to see his team score 17 points? Matt Rule, because in games when he gives up 17, the Panthers are 1-26.
Oh,
under Matt Rule.
You guys talk about the trick plays of the Bucs. If they have another shovel pass inside the 3, somebody's going to die. I swear to God. That's about enough.
We've seen so many of those kind of stupid plays, though. I mean, today I watched Carolina, Arizona in the late bracket, 4th and 1, and you try to run it. It's not even 1; it's about half a foot. And you try to run a jet sweep.
Oh wow!
Yeah. And it got blown up 2 steps after he took the handoff.
Yeah, we see that a lot in Kansas City, where obviously Andy Reid is an elite offense designer, an elite play caller, but about once, maybe twice a game, they'll be just too clever for their own good. Last week it was the fake punt. We've seen some trick plays, the double laterals with the throwback to the quarterback. We've seen that fail. I'm kind of with you guys in my team as well. You've got great talent. Let's see it. We know you're good, Coach. Okay, you don't have to prove it every week. Let's go.
James, who's kicking for the Chiefs today? Now that
three-toed Jimmy or somebody, I don't know.
They gave me a
Matthew Wright. Here, does that help?
He kicked at UCF.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Kicked to the UCF.
Andy gave me a call, but I told him my wheelchair couldn't hit the ball that hard.
I thought they were going to get Gogolak or somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
The ghost of Tom Dorsey.
Right. James, let me ask you about. We were talking about the red zone. Okay, people getting cute in the red zone. This field is compressed. I mean, you only have people forget the end zone's 10 yards. So if you're in on the 20 or in, you only got 30 yards of field to play.
Right.
And you got 22 guys in 30 yards. So that's there's a lot that can happen. Good, not good. Ping ponging off of stuff. When you get in there, does the red zone actually favor in some regards the defense?
Some defenses, I think it does, but I think it depends on what kind of offense you're playing against. These, the spread teams, the 5 wide guys that want to throw it all the time, they're at a little bit of a disadvantage. But if you're a ground and pound kind of team, and the red zone's your best friend, you can eat those yards up quick. The way our defense plays, I think it helps our secondary out. They have limited space that they have to guard and protect, and it allows Todd Bowles to be a little bit more aggressive as well within that, because you will see a little bit more sometimes unique blitzes come in the red zone than you do in the open field, because you have the end zone, that sideline as an extra defender, so to speak. So you can do a couple of more things. So I think it benefits our style of defense, but it doesn't benefit every defense.
Carter, any questions you want to talk to the class about? You got here?
No, I mean, kind of piggybacking of what y'all were talking about with the red zone. I definitely see it. Definitely see it benefiting the Bucs defense, because they have those physical corners. Like Carlton Davis, really physical at the line of scrimmage. But good Lord, I mean, I know y'all remember this when the Bucs played the Chiefs in the regular season during the Super Bowl year. Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards receiving. I mean, it's Tyreek Hill. Don't get me wrong, but shoot, it's a bad look whenever that happens. But yeah, y'all were talking about trick plays too. I still remember the little spin play that the Chiefs did against the 49ers in that one Super Bowl. I was thinking, man, it's Andy Reid. He just be pulling out random stuff out of that cheeseburger menu that he's got. But I just thank y'all for having me on. I just want to stop by. I'm going to hop off here and get ready for the game.
Okay.
Y'all have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much for having me on again.
Carter's a pleasure, buddy. We'll pick you back up later in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all have a nice night.
All right, be well. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks to Carter for joining us. And
hey guys, I know I'm late, but Jim, you especially, and James as well. What do you guys think of this decision to play the game in Tampa? Is anybody on the ground down there, or has anybody talked to? I mean,
Yeah,
I know it. I know it.
sorry.
The major damage went south, but did Tampa? Are they in good enough shape? What do you? Is it a good look for the NFL?
I've spoken to a number of people. I mean, I've got a lot of family and friends in up and down the coast, the West Coast, and you know, the city of Tampa in the Hillsborough County, up until I think it was Thursday, still had a couple 100,000 people without power. So I think. I mean, the other option was, because Minnesota was in London, was to play the game in Minneapolis.
We were ready to go, by the way.
Yeah, exactly.
My son and I were like, "Yep, we're gonna go."
We're on our way. I think this was I mean, Mayor Castor, Jane Castor, met with the city council, the county commission, FEMA. I mean, this was not an easy decision to make, but the decision was made that they could play the game at home, that it made sense to do it, to try. It's kind of like this is kind of like one of those. I spoke at the beginning of the show. I didn't do our normal open, did a cold open. And showed some of the devastation, and we talked a little bit about that's a diversion. Okay, diversions. Sports is a diversion. It gives us an opportunity to step away from reality, whether it's a good reality or a bad reality. It gives us 3 or 4 hours to just not think about stuff that sucks. And I've gotten emails, I've gotten texts, I've gotten Instagrams, DMs of people who said that they're literally watching our show tonight on their cell phones because they don't have, or they have some power back, but they don't have everything back. But the fact that there's a community, and that's the other part that sports is so good at, it brings a sense of community. So I think for all the right reasons, they were thinking, you know what, we need something to get our minds off this. And if 10 people go to Tampa into the stadium, that's fine. But playing the game at the stadium is kind of like let's show the world that, okay, yes, devastation, terrible. And, billions of dollars are not still going to make up for the loss of life and the loss of all the different issues, be it homes, be it infrastructure, whatever. It's not going to make up that. But give us 3 hours so we don't have to think about it. And if we can play it at the stadium, that would be a good thing. And I think that's the mindset, whether that's a good mindset or a bad mindset, whether it's a good look or a bad look, that's not for me to judge. But I think that's where they went with it. I spoke to people on the ground. The people on the ground down there were cool with it. They had no problem with it. They felt, okay, let's go. I've been through hurricanes down there many times, but this one probably was the worst, certainly in a generation, maybe ever, because it basically, for all intents and purposes, wiped off the face of off of the face of Florida, Sanibel Island. And if you saw what that's, I mean, to take out a causeway, guys, I can't even begin to tell you what that's like. That just blew me away when I saw that picture.
Jim, being from the Midwest, what it looked like was an F3, F4 tornado that was 90 miles wide that went across the entire state.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. That's what everything I've seen, all the aerial shots and everything. Right. That's exactly what it's looked like. Like, oh yeah, that's tornado damage.
Right.
But except the swath is so wide.
Well, and the hurricane itself took a real quick turn, right? And so when you're and you're expecting it to hit about 100 miles above you, and it takes that quick turn, if you haven't left, if you haven't evacuated, there's no, if you're on a barrier island, and Chris, you know this from being in the area up there, if you're in a barrier island, you can't, That's when there might be a bridge, there might be a causeway. That's it. You know, short of a boat, you're not getting off that island. And so that's why, as I say, Sanibel. I mean, you're talking about easy. Probably most of the homes on Sanibel start at $3 million and go up. So you know, those are not. And I'm not putting a price tag on what devastation is, right? But I'm just saying people build out there because they want to live on an island. Well, that's great, but the downside to that is you're on an island, and so either you can get off it or you can't. One of the most amazing shots I saw was an alligator going down a street. Okay, there was a mailbox. It went by the mailbox. You could see the top of the mailbox, but so you knew that here's an alligator just going down a street that would have had cars normally on it or people normally on it, but it was so flooded. And this is in the Orlando area, and that's a good 75, 80 miles inland. You know,
right.
There's just, when you get that much water, there's just nowhere for it to go. And Florida, specifically going from Tampa, the Tampa Bay area south, is below sea level. So
terrible.
You know, it's tragic. So again, it was not certainly when nobody called me, asked me what I thought, but I believe more than anything that this is one of those things where people want to say, you know what, let's keep, let's try to keep a sense of normalcy. Let's try to see what we can do, and if we can make it through, then good on us. And like I said, if 10 people or 50,000 50,000 people show up at the stadium tonight, you know, I think it's just one of those things where people just want a diversion to get them through to the next day.
Well said. You know, I just want you guys to know that I did my part. As soon as it looked like the Hurricane was going to miss Tampa Bay, I immediately grabbed the Bucs plus 3.5. So we all have our
we knew. I knew personally, Scott, that if anyone was going to reach out and help, that would be you. From that standpoint, just doing what you can do, right?
10% of my winnings go right to Florida Relief.
There you go. We love you. That's it.
So that'll be about $3.
Yeah.
Bum. Speaking of Bucs, guys, we got about 6 minutes left here. Go around. We'll go with Chris. You want to start? What do you think is going to happen tonight?
Well, I think from this perspective, you actually have to see something from Tom Brady in the offense. Like James said, they've done almost nothing all season. Brady's 22nd in the league in net yards per attempt at 5.8. With this kind of talent, that's not what you're used to seeing. I know you're getting Donovan Smith back today. As much as I hate to see it, the Chiefs actually have some sort of a pass rush this year, which is something they were allergic to last year. They only had 31 sacks in 17 games. This year they've got 10 in the first 3. I'm not sure how well Tampa Bay can hold up, and I'm worried about the health of those receivers. As much as it pains me to say it, I've got to lean towards Kansas City here in a close game. But just like James and we all talked about last week, I don't know how many points we're going to see in this game. Last week we thought we'd see one team get to 20, and it was 14-12.
Right.
This time I'm going to say it's going to be about 23-17, but it's going to go in favor of Kansas City.
Thanks for the update on. He passed by Ray J yesterday and didn't see a single branch off a tree that fell on the ground. So that gives us an idea what things are about around the stadium. So thanks for the update on that. Let's go to our Kansas City expert, Scotty. You're up next.
You know, I really am worried about this defense without Willie Gay. It is hard to overstate what an impact he makes in the middle of that linebacker spot. 27-21 Tampa Bay.
James, you're up, bud. You got it.
Well, Jim, you know, I've been wrong every week this season as far as like predicting points.
Well, that's why you and I are on this side of the screen and the guys on the other side.
I said we would score 24 last week and we scored 12. I'm almost feeling like Chris. I almost feel like that we're not going to be able to muster up enough, and we're going to fall short at home. I don't want to believe it, but that's just what I feel right now. I want them to prove me wrong, but right now I got Chiefs winning 17-10.
Hi, welcome to the Everybody Hates Their Home Team show.
Well, it's reverse psychology, right? It's
Right.
like, okay, if I say they're gonna lose, then they'll win.
Two of the best teams in the NFL. We're sitting there going, "No, Jesus, my team sucks. No, my team sucks more."
No, I'm worse. It's oh man. All right, guys. Tell you what, we're gonna
People in Houston going, "Why don't you guys just shut up?"
right. You want to see a bad team? We'll show you a bad team. Damn it. You can't. Hey, look, you can't even talk about Jacksonville like that anymore.
No.
Okay.
Well, the kind of game they lost today, so they blew a 14-0 lead.
All right. Well, from our friends at NBC, we're going to go out with this. By the way, first, before we do that, because we want to get them a little bit of pub here. Coming up, by all means, watch the game on NBC or Peacock. Mike Tirico's doing the play-by-play. Chris Collingsworth is on the analysis. Melissa Stark on the sideline. And referee Terry McCauley is going to handle the rules expert side. In the truck, we got our boy Robbie Highland and directing Drew Esikoff. So that's our team for tonight. NBC coming up right after us on Channel 8 in the Tampa Bay area, Channel 2 in the Orlando area, Channel 2 down on the in the Fort Myers area, or wherever you get your Peacock if you're a streamer like myself. So there you go, boys and girls. Let's play it out with a promo from NBC Sports. And folks, have a great game. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. And stand by, because we're going to have some little fun with this close, courtesy of NBC Sports and Beck.
Hey, you're a legend, man.
Yeah, let's keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure.